Hello and welcome to the Overwatch Team Files. So, we are going to take a look in this series at a bunch of Overwatch teams. They will generally be in Contenders, and they may not be existing now, they may still be existing, and these are teams that have a very storied history in Overwatch, whether that be in Korean Contenders, or EU Contenders, or Apex, anything really. If there is a big team that you want a Team Files done on, then we will take a look at them. But today we are going to take a look at one of the most well-known tier 2 names in Overwatch Esports. This is of course Runaway. So, Runaway is a very unique team. Runaway, it didn't exist before Overwatch. So Runner is the person who runs Runaway and owns Runaway. Runner was a League of Legends streamer before the release of Overwatch, and when Overwatch was released, he founded Runaway, and it was a really awesome thing to do, and we love Runaway. Runaway has a massive fan base these days, but it struggled when it started off. It really struggled. With it not being an org, and being just founded as a team, there was no money around. Absolutely no money around. They had an initial roster of Shine, Mono, Haxel you'll know, Kaiser you may also know, Quad, and Runner, of course, himself. They didn't have a team house, didn't have analysts, blah 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 blah, but they did manage to qualify for OGN Apex Season 1, which is a massive, massive achievement, because Apex was the POG competition of that time. We all remember Apex. Well, we don't all remember Apex. I should rephrase that. You will always hear people go on about Apex when they talk about pre-Overwatch League, because that's what the premier competition was. Some teams, Team Envy, even came over from the Western regions to compete in Apex against the best teams in the world. Like, no doubt about it. So, Runaway was formed. They didn't get out of the group stages, I don't believe. So, it was a first step. But for a team that had literally just been formed, it's a great step to get to the group stages of the premier competition of Overwatch at the first time of asking. In Season 2, though, they did make it past the 2 group stages and into the playoffs. They faced a team called LW Blue. Now, LW Blue is now, well, New York Excelsior, or was New York Excelsior, lots of parts of it. So, in Season 2 of Apex, they were clearly doing better than they did previously. And this win against LW Blue, after 4 maps, it was tied up. In the 5th map, Kaiser hits a massive 5-man Earth Shatter on Runaway's attack on the Reinhardt. Kaiser, still about to this day, as we all know, he's a player that has somehow avoided the Overwatch League. I don't know how. But he secured the victory and he sent Runaway to the grand finals of OGN Apex Season 2, where they would face Lunatic High. Wow. Now there is a name that will be coming up a little bit later on in this series. Lunatic High went on to become the Soul Dynasty. Lunatic High had names like Rouge Hong, Miro. Oh boy, there's some names you can throw around. Zunba. It's incredible names of Overwatch, especially in the early days. They did actually take a 3-1 lead against Lunatic High in that final, but they got swept back with 3 consecutive map wins for Lunatic High to take that 4-3, and Runaway ended that season in 2nd place in Apex. So it's still an incredible feat, like massive feat, and that was with a very similar roster for the first 2 seasons. But of course, financial struggles, it still was a problem for Runaway. It was always a problem for Runaway. They ended up losing Kaiser in Season 3, 2 matches into Cloud9, and it was a rough one. Kaiser had been a really mainstay of that. And then he left apparently to find a more stable income, according to Runner. And they didn't get past the first round of group stages. And then the team it got rough. Some people left, they lost 2 players, they lost a coach. And Runaway was going through a rebuild in some respects. But, so after Season 3, after they did so badly, Runaway, it was on a knife's edge for Runaway. It really was. Runner was kind of disillusioned with it. He needed, income to support his family and stuff like that, and Runaway wasn't providing that. He considered disbanding it. But a little known someone called Flower Vin, his wife, persuaded him to carry on with the project. Together with their money from their streaming, obviously both Runner and Flower Vin are streamers, they actually rented an apartment and they surprised the Runaway players with it. And it became the Runaway Team House. And that was a massive step for this team because they were actually, living together. That's what Overwatch League teams do, right? That's what very high-end Korean Overwatch Contenders teams do. They actually have team houses where everyone's in-house, everyone's playing, and it helps for team atmosphere. It helps players bond. And it was a massive step for Runaway. With these changes, things really did change. They secured it's called sponsorships. One of them was Logitech. Runner moved to a coach role, and so Kaiser came back after 2 months with Cloud9, and all of a sudden the team was looking great for Apex Season 4. In Apex Season 4 they did go in and do solidly. They did solidly in the group stages, advanced to playoffs. They took on NC Foxes in the semi-finals. They got to the grand finals and they took on GC Busan. That will be a team that will come up a little bit later on, that ended up becoming part of London Spitfire in the end. Unfortunately, in that final, they fell to GC Busan 4-3. Again, Runaway were a team of second places in Apex. They went to the APAC Premier in 2017 as well. It was a major Chinese tournament, and guess what? They fell again to GC Busan 4-1. So, rough for Runaway. The Apex days were rough. It was a lot of building. Early on, it was a lot of struggles, a lot of financial issues. But the perseverance of Runner and Flower Vin really paid off. The team did fantastically, and they came very close to 2 Apex titles, which is a massive feat for any team in Overwatch. So that puts a bookend on the Apex days for Runaway. But obviously the Overwatch League was formed. That meant the end of Apex, and we run into Overwatch Contenders, which was formed as the Tier 2 system for Overwatch when Overwatch League was created. When this happened, the Runaway roster started to change. Gone were Mono and Quad and Coma and Shine and Kaiser and people like that. Even towards the end, like more TZ sort of people and Alpha, people like that. They'd all gone from Runaway, and we looked at this Runaway squad, and this Runaway squad was Sominsu, Slime, Twilight, Janu, Stitch, Bumper, and Haxel. I think that is a roster that a lot of people will be familiar with. This was the roster that basically took Runaway to the heights that it had never reached before. When we talk about Runaway in Apex, it was always second best. They were never winners, they were always runners-up, if they got anywhere. And when we got to Contenders, things changed. And possibly the most major thing that would happen would be that Runner would be stepping down from Runaway to go and do his mandatory military service in Korea. And so, Flower Vin stepped up and took up the role as team manager, and it became her baby, sort of. Now, players all over the world, when the Overwatch League was created, the state of Overwatch Esports was in flux. There was tons of transfers. People moved to different organizations across the world, and so a lot of teams basically were completely rebuilt. But Runaway went into Overwatch Contenders for the first time with their core of the Bumper, Stitch, Haxel sort of line, and it's a team that became mighty famous in Contenders. In the first season of Overwatch Contenders, they did okay, but they were defeated by X6 Gaming in the semi-finals. But now they would hit a massive, massive high for the first time ever. Now, in Season 2 of Contenders, they signed Hureg. Hureg was on London Spitfire in the Overwatch League originally, and he would be joining Haxel, Bumper, Stitch, Janu, Twilight, Simon, Sim, and Sue, and they again get to playoffs, because Runaway are starting to become a bit of a powerhouse in Korea. They're starting to become a massive team. But this time, they defeat MVP Space, they defeat Element Mystic, and then they face Kongdu Panthera in the grand finals. It was a massive match. It was a absolutely massive match, one of the biggest matches in Overwatch history. It went 8 maps in a best of 7 series, but Runaway for the first time emerged victorious in a grand final. They were finally champions of Korea. They were Contenders champions for the first time ever. Runaway had broken the awful run of second places that had haunted them for many years previous, going all the way back through APAC and Apex. And this was a monumental moment for this team. It was a door opening for this team to become one of the best that Overwatch Tier 2 has ever seen. But that was the end of the first Overwatch League season. Runaway had come through the first Overwatch Contenders season with a Contenders title, and also the NetEase Esports tournament title as well, where they defeated the one winner. Now, this was October 2018 now, and this is when the Overwatch League expanded from 12 teams to 20 teams. This was when the Vancouver Titans were formed. And in October 2018, Flowervin on her stream announced that the Overwatch League had acquired the entire Runaway roster, and it would be later revealed as the Vancouver Titans that they would be going to. So this was everyone. This was Hureg, Haxel, Bumper, Stitch, Jano, Twilight, Slime, and Soman Su. They would all move over to that massive team of the Vancouver Titans that would go on to do so well in the first season that they competed in the Overwatch League in 2019. Unfortunately, we do know the story that goes on from there, but that is no longer the Runaway story. That is the Vancouver Titans story, and so we won't be going on into that. Of course, that meant that Runaway would have to reform. It would have to rebuild, and they came out with a completely new roster, a completely different looking Runaway. Could this Runaway be the same as the Runaway that had gone before? The Runaway that had broken the spell? The Runaway that had been so good in the past and become one of the most notable names in Overwatch Esports? Well. The story just continues. A new roster came in to Runaway to feature the likes of Mag, Lee Jae-gon, Hisu, Kyo, Gangnam Jin, Yaki, Shui. There's a lot of names in there that'll be recognized even now. So this team went on to dominate once again. They won the third season of Contenders 2018 in very good fashion in the final. In fact, they actually won 4-1 against Element Mystic. They then went and won the next NetEase tournament against LGD Gaming. They did, however, in the first season of 2019, have a little bit of a slip-up, falling in the semi-finals against O2 Blast. I believe O2 Blast were the eventual winners of that. I might be wrong. Actually about that. But then, again, they clapped back. They went and won the NetEase Esports tournament again. And then, in Season 2 of 2019, they would go on to beat Element Mystic in the finals of Korean Contenders once again to pick up their third Korean Contenders title in 4 attempts. That is massive. Crazy turnover. And then, we see it happen again. So, the Runaway roster gets kind of picked apart. We see Shui go and retire, actually. Yaki and Gangnam Jin were picked up by the newly rebranded Florida Mayhem. QOQ, he would move over to T1 in Korea. Hisu would move to the Philadelphia Fusion and have a great season for the Philadelphia Fusion in the Overwatch League. Lee Jae-gon would move over to Shanghai Dragons APAC winners of 2020 in the Overwatch League. They would also manage to keep hold of Mag, though, their main tank, which was a very, very major part of them to build a new roster that would feature Assassin, FaZe, Revenge from the Overwatch League, Chio, Merit, Huyol, and also they would have the ex-Overwatch League NYXL DPS Flower for that team as well. That leads us into the latest year, and although Runaway has not seen the success that it saw previously, it is a much less powerful roster maybe, but it is still up and around there. It really is. Most recently, Runaway lost to WGS Phoenix in the finals of Korea in Season 2 of 2020. And they are still a powerhouse in Overwatch Esports. It is the dream. Runaway is the dream. It was built from nothing in 2016 from a streamer, a League of Legends streamer who loved the game of Overwatch. He created a team on no money, no backing, nothing. This team reached the heights you would never think it reachable. Its players went on to be second place in the Overwatch League in 2019. There's only one step better than that. And it is crazy to think that all of this has come from one streamer, Runner, and his wife, Flowervin. It is one hell of a story. It is why the story is so loved. Runner is now back with the Runaway squad. He's back from his military service alongside Flowervin, his wife. And I'm sure that Runaway will be one of the biggest names in Korea for a long, long time. We have seen a lot of teams change, move on, disband. Runaway has always been a team that has just been there. You always know Runaway are going to be in Contenders for 2021 or 2020, most hopefully 2022. You never know what's around the corner, but Runaway always seems to be a measuring stick in Korea. Even though Korea is going through changing times at the moment with different teams coming up like T1, like Talon Esports, like WGS Phoenix most recently. It's a changing scene in Korea, but Runaway is always there. And it's testament to Runner and Flowervin for all the work they've put in over the years. But that was our team files of Runaway. It's an incredibly interesting story, and there are a ton of teams to take a look at. Go back to the days of Kongdu Panthera, go back to the days of GC Busan, when you've got Lunatic High, when you've got teams like Element Mystic, who are going to be disbanding at the end of this year. Then when we move over to other regions, we've got teams going back before, like Team Envious, and how that became Dallas Fuel, and how that went to Korea to go up against the likes of Lunatic High and did very, very well. And then we have teams like Giganti. Giganti was a very big team in Europe before it disbanded. And there are tons of teams we can take a look at. So let me know in the comments below if you want a specific team looked at, because I think this will be an incredibly interesting series to go through during the soft season of the Overwatch League and stuff like that, because not a lot of people know Overwatch Esports pre-Overwatch League. Overwatch League is very different to what Overwatch Esports used to be. Apex is very fond memories for a lot of people. You will probably hear Wolf and Achilles go on about it a lot. And I think it's good sometimes to give backstories to some of the players that are currently in the Overwatch League. But for now, thank you guys so much for this video. If you'd like to give a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video. See you then.